So what are parentheses, brackets, and braces used for in PowerShell? Well, that's a question from this week's class, and a pretty good one. Let's take a look. Now, I've been writing code since I was a fifth grader, which means I've learned a couple of computer languages over the years. Now, a question that I get in the PowerShell classes that I teach are, why do we use parentheses? Why do we use brackets? Why do we use braces? Well, I'm going to try and show you a little bit, or at least some examples of when we use each type of these syntaxes. The first element that we're going to take a look at are parentheses. Now we can use parentheses to control order of operation. What I mean by that is if we take 5 plus 5 times 5, the answer is 30. But if we put 5 plus 5 inside a parentheses, that is executed first, and the answer is 50. And we can do that with our commandlets as well. Here I'm putting getDate inside of parentheses. That says do this first. That's going to create the object output that happens to have a property called day of year. So when I run this, you can see it's the 257th day of the year. We also use parentheses when we're working with a programming construct that evaluates some type of a condition. In this while statement, you can see I have a condition that's being evaluated, so it's inside of parentheses. And when I run this code, you can see that the while loop successfully executes. As soon as the value of x is no longer less than 5, then the while loop exits. We can also create a parenthetical command. In other words, we can have some code in parentheses that runs and provides a value to a commandlet's parameters. I'm going to create a text file with these 3 values. Now those 3 values happen to correspond to the names of services that are running on this machine. Here's the parenthetical command. Now when I run this, it simply reads that text file and it puts one item at a time into the PowerShell pipeline. But in this case, it's going to pass each one of those values to the name parameter of getService. And when we run it, it works. When we're creating scripts, functions, or script commandlets, we can use parentheses to help define the parameters of that code. Here I have a function called testinfo, and right here I'm creating a parameter called int1. Let's go ahead and put this code into memory and execute it, giving the parameter int1 the value of 100, and you can see that the parameter was successfully created and the function executed as expected. As you're probably noticing, parameters are used a lot. Now I'm going to show you one more example, and this is called a subexpression. With a subexpression, you're going to execute code inside of a string. Here we're going to run the command getProcess, and we're going to pipe those objects to the measure object. We're going to focus on the CPU property and gather all of the stats that measure object can collect. And now here's the fun part. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put the sum property into a string, but we're going to do without a sub-expression. Here we go. The total CPU value is Microsoft PowerShell commands generic measure info sum. That's not what we want. We want the actual number. So we're going to do a sub-expression. In our sub-expression, I'm going to add an extra $sign, open paren, and then close paren. This is going to allow me to pull the value of that object's property out and put that into the string. When I execute, you can see the total CPU value is, well, quite high. Let's talk about braces. These are braces. Now, some people call these curly braces or French braces. We're just going to call these things braces. And what they do is they can group some code into a single unit. So take a look at this if statement. If the day a week is equal to Friday, then I want to run all the code between these braces. So they're kind of grouped together as a single unit. Let's go ahead and run this code. And as you can all tell, I'm recording this on a Friday. Here's another example where I'm using the braces to define the code that I want to run in the background. So I'm going to use start job to create a background operation. And our code is off and running. Next up is brackets. Now, I heard people call these square braces. I'm going to call them brackets for this demonstration. In this example, I'm using the brackets to define the data type of the variable that I'm creating. In this case, we're going to create a 16-bit integer. So we can use those brackets to call out what object from the .NET framework we want to utilize. Now, we also use brackets when we're referencing an element of an array. So here I'm creating an array. And what we're going to do is we're going to grab all of the sim process instances and store them in a variable called data. I can see that we have 325 elements in this array, and we're going to pull out the item in the 10th index. And there is that process. Learning the syntax of any programming language can be challenging, but with repetition, with practice, you are going to get it. I hope that this helped clarify what parentheses, braces, and brackets are used for. Y'all take care. Remember to hit that subscribe button, and I'll see you in the next episode.